Welcome to the Write Good Books podcast, the audio companion to WriteGoodBooks.com, with your host Jason Bougger.
Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Jason, joined again by co-host Scott Michael Childers. You doing good?
I'm doing fine.
Good. Last time, we were talking about sending off queries to agents and how to find agents, and we kind of went over your query letter, your synopsis, your sample pages, and we thought it'd be good to do a full episode on the mistakes you might make in a query to an agent, or we could probably expand that to publishers as well.
Some of them would apply, yeah.
Yeah, at this point it's somewhat similar. So I think we shall do that this week, this time.
This time of this week, of this month, of this year.
Yes.
And see what I did there? I expanded to way too much detail, and that's going to be one of the problems.
Yeah, that's a big problem.
You know, especially in that query letter, where you're spending so much time with extraneous detail, trying to prove that you're a writer by making your query letter full of, well, purple prose and type. Yeah. It's a business letter. That's what you're writing. So this isn't an artistic statement. This is a business letter, so treat it as such. Yes, a little bit of your personality can and should come through, but I think that's one of the number one things you should not do, is treat this as a piece of prose.
Yeah, very good advice. It really is. We said last time elevator pitch, and it really is that. You want one or two, maybe three sentences about your book. Anything more will just be a turnoff, I think, when the busy agent sees you've got 2 pages to that query letter. Those 2 pages go in the delete button, or in the trash if there's physical copies.
Yeah, it's too much detail is going to distract it, because when you're writing the book and people reading the book, they have the time to digest and think about and see those connections. In a query letter, you don't have the space to do that.
Right. You know, it's kind of like if you know someone who's, I'm going to really stereotype a whole bunch of people right now, but let me do it. So if you go up to a published author and say, what's your book about? They're going to tell you in a couple of sentences what their book's about. If you go to an unpublished author and say, what's your book about? You might stand there for 10 minutes.
Yes, or a couple hours.
Yeah, and I don't mean to say, that's aspiring writers are like that, but you know what I mean? It's when you go up and ask someone what their book's about, you don't want to know any character names, or you just want to know, hey, it's a book about a murder that took place in 1942. That's what the query letter should be like.
Yeah, and I can understand. You've fallen in love with the characters. You've told their life stories. However, leave that discovery of your characters for the actual book, not in summary.
Right.
Not like you said, someone comes up and talks to you about your book. Mm-hmm. You've got 30 seconds before their eyes glaze over, because if they want that level of information after you talk to them, they'll get your book.
Yes. And an agent will ask for sample pages, or a synopsis, like we said last time. Another thing you don't want to do is be pushy. You don't want to say, this is the greatest book ever written, this is such a good book, you're a fool to not represent it,
You're guaranteed to get Harry Potter numbers.
Oh, yeah.
This is the next
bestseller, yeah.
The next 50 Shades of Grey. Now, if the themes are similar, you say this has themes similar to,
sure,
but not this is the next big thing.
Right.
Leave that level of hyperbole to the marketing folks after they accept your book.
Right, and don't be pushy. Don't send a query letter 2 days later, send a follow-up, 2 days later, send a follow-up, and keep doing that until there's a restraining order.
You and those restraining orders, I mean...
Yeah. Go figure.
Yeah, that is the thing. You can be too pushy with these things. And there, in some cases, a hard sell is a good sell. But in this case, no. Because you're going to want a relationship with this agent. And even if the book is good, if you're showing some, I don't want to call it insecurities, but showing this kind of behavior that's going to make representing you a pain in the neck.
Right.
You don't want that. because after they accept the book, you're probably going to have a relationship with this agent, and they want it to be a good and healthy relationship.
Right. It's so much like applying for a job. I feel like your synopsis is your resume, and your query letter is your query letter, and the agents don't want anyone who's going to bring them any kind of drama. So if you sound too pushy, or on the other side of that, if you sound insecure about yourself as a writer or about your book, it'll be a huge turnoff.
Yeah.
And we touched on gimmicky things last time, but we could go a little more elaborate there. You'll hear horror stories from agents talk about. I swear, I was listening to somebody on a podcast one time say they were sent a dead animal with their manuscript. Maybe that's a bit extreme, but
I've seen this in job interviews. In my real life, I do hiring. Someone sends something on colored paper with a lot of clip art. Okay, if you're doing a children's book and the art is you and you're the illustrator, maybe.
Oh yeah, but then there'll probably be specific guidelines for art as well.
Right. So you don't. Again, this is a business letter, so look up the business templates. I'm all for having fun and joking around, but not in this. Right. The fun that you have is in the personality that you can show in a business setting. Mm-hmm. So yeah, if you're doing print, colored paper, glitter, puffy stickers. Scratch and sniff, leave that all behind.
Sending it with toys or food or any,
An email, plain text. If they ask for it in a Word document, send it in Word. Mm-hmm. PDF, send it in PDF. Don't do some. There's a case. Forgive me for going long on this one, but there's a case. This one person, an engineer in real life, said, "I'm not sending you anything. Don't ask me to send it in anything but latex." And that's the coding language, latex, because if you can't decipher it, then I don't want to work with you. It's like, oh my gosh, then you must not want to get published. So there was an attitude and not willing to follow the people who hold the purse strings.
Yeah.
So
attitude, and you'll see attitude in every profession.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no drama, no attitude. No anything. Do what the query letter says. That's it. Yeah, be professional. In the synopsis, and we touched on this last time a little bit, but use the guidelines, and if there's no guidelines, keep it short. Don't send them a synopsis that would be the size of a dictionary. Don't send one that won't make it through their email filter.
Yeah, here's a question. Do you put in the ending?
Of course. In the synopsis, yeah.
Because you're trying to sell the whole book.
Mm-hmm. Synopsis is they're looking for the plot. Yeah, don't send a synopsis with a cliffhanger. And don't, I guess this might go back to the query letter, but synopsis too, don't send the you'll never guess what happens.
Okay. Leave the marketing speech for after it's been sold, right?
Synopsis, there's not a lot of red flags you can do in a synopsis. Just make sure it's well written and doesn't include a whole bunch of unnecessary details.
So a lot of the subplots for minor characters you may cut out.
Yeah.
Extended backstory, cut it out. And that's going to be hard if you spent years writing this tome, but that's what you got to do.
No shame in just being telly. This character did this, and then this happened, and that's your synopsis. So that's your query letter and your synopsis. In the actual writing, because another part of your query will be pages, or they may ask for pages, whether it's a publisher or an agent. There's lots of do's and don'ts. I guess we've done a talk on beginnings before, but we could touch on things that there's the cliches that everyone says don't include. Don't start with the character looking in the mirror. Don't start with the character brushing their teeth. Don't start with a dream, a flashback, a prologue. What else do you see that you don't want to start with?
Well, and those are these are the rules of writing. Know them, so that way you know what you're doing when you break them.
Right.
And again, go back to our beginnings episode for more information on that. But if you're submitting, make sure it's finished. Please make sure it's finished.
Yeah, if they want 5 pages, you better not have 5 typos.
Yeah. Yeah. And granted, if they buy it, there will be another editorial pass and stuff. But what you are submitting should be the best that you can do at that point. It's not pre-beta. It's not first draft. So I think that's another thing. It's like you're not ready to submit queries unless you have something to query about.
Right. Never send a work in progress. Let's see, we've got a little bit of time left. I kind of thought it'd be fun if I talked about a few of the rejection letters I got from agents.
Hey, that'd be great.
And
not so good for your ego, but
most of these are summarized, but a few of them, I know one who wanted to see my full manuscript, their response was, "You've got a good plot, but I cannot empathize with," no, they said relate. "I can't relate with your main character enough to represent the book."
Oh, okay.
You know, things like that. I've had some say, this is kind of funny, in the same week, I got one rejection saying it's too wordy for a young adult, and the next one saying it's not wordy enough for a young adult. So, you know, that shows that every agent wants something different, I think. You know, one said it was too snarky. When I pitched to an agent at a conference, she said, the snarkier the better. You know, make it as snarky as you can. And I feel like I get a little too... seems a little forced if I get too snarky, but I've had other agents say it was too short. So, you know, the feedback is, most of the time you don't get feedback or you'll get a form letter, but so I did get a little bit of constructive feedback.
Well, I think that points out something. Every agent will have a different style of clientele.
Yes.
And when the publishers go to that agent, they're expecting a certain type of clientele. Now, that type may differ. Some maybe this person represents intellectual types of things. The snark levels may be different. The age groups may be different. But these people are doing intellectual pieces. This agent represents people who do young adult character pieces mainly. Each one's going to have a strength. It's sort of like if you follow American TV, there's a certain type of TV show that if you're looking at it, you go, that is a CW show.
Oh, yeah.
Or that's an NBC sitcom, right? They're looking for certain things, and so they go certain places to get those. So that's one thing the agents are, and that's, you were getting different agents because they're selling different stuff.
Right. Very, very good to remember that. Which also, you know, I always like to say, never take it personal. They're simply not interested in that book at that time.
Yeah, and they're not the person to sell it.
Right. And you don't want an agent to take your book if they're the wrong person to sell it. I have one friend who has an agent, and in 2 years, that agent hasn't been able to sell a book. So then you divorce the agent.
Yeah.
And what else do agents not like to see? They don't.
Demands. As far as, if you're my agent, you will get X number of my sales. That's not in a query letter.
Right.
You have those discussions after you think that there might be something there. You don't put in your terms in the query letter.
Yeah.
So I know some people who would think, well, I'm just being upfront, so that way everyone knows what the... No. The thing is, they have to see the book, that or the short piece or whatever it is you're trying to sell, and then they decide, can we come to terms? Can we negotiate the terms?
Right.
Because I think I can sell this book. If you're throwing terms up there without them seeing the merchandise, they're not going to bother looking at the merchandise.
Right. And that's going to go back to attitude, too. They're going to say, no.
Yeah, because you are working with your agent.
Right. And that's what will make an agent not want to work with you. So be careful.
I think we've worked with this topic long enough.
Yeah,
What do you
think so. If you are querying agents, good luck. It's hard. I send out 50 query letters with my first book, and only had one want to read the full manuscript, and a couple wanted a synopsis or sample pages. I have one friend who sent out 100 query letters and has no agent yet, so you just have to really keep trying. If you want to go with a big 6 publisher, I say keep trying.
Big 5.
Yeah, or big 5. What did I say? Big 6.
Big 6.
Oh, I just dated myself.
You're living in the past, my friend.
Living in the past.
This is why you need an agent, so they know how many publishers there are.
Yeah, for sure.
Did you want to take that one?
Yeah, no. Oh, no, I lost my train of thought, though.
Sorry.
That's okay. I think, yeah, that's what it was. It could be your book is not suited for a big 5 publisher also.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not getting an agent after 100 queries, maybe it is better to look at a smaller publisher or consider self-publishing.
It might be just niche enough that you need to stay. You get better response from a niche publisher.
Right, and we have some podcasts on that in the past as well. And on closing, and this probably could have been said last time, but we'll say it this time, I've read like Writer's Digest said, after 10 queries, if you don't get a request for a manuscript, then it means you're doing your query wrong. I think I disagree with that. I don't know anyone who has 1 out of 10 queries ask for a manuscript, but...
Well, it's certainly time to look at it and double check.
Yeah,
maybe there's this glaring typo.
Yeah. So, yeah, you never know. I mean, never consider your query done. Like, it's a work in progress, just like your book is until it's published.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, well, do you have anything else on this one?
Just as a side note, let's say you've gotten your book Let's say you sold your book to a publisher and don't have an agent.
Mm-hmm.
It's not too late to get an agent.
That is true.
Some of you have had, like Jason, he got a deal with a small press publisher. He can still look for an agent even after that deal is started, because you might be able to say, hey, I have a book sold to this company and I'm looking for an agent to help me negotiate terms.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, when it comes to time renew contract, or with something new like I'm doing now, I think it helps an agent know that you do have previously published books in case they want to take those on when the contracts are up.
Yeah.
So, on that note, I think we'll say we're out of time, and thanks for listening. If you'd like to support us, be sure to check us out on the web at www.writegoodbooks.com/podcast, and we'll see you next time.
see ya.